Hi there. Raúl from Gen 3 here. Andrew should be coming in a bit.
Perfect. My name's Ed, by the way, Ed or Edward.
Okay, nice to meet you, Ed.
Nice to meet you too. Glad you can make it.
Sure. Happy to join.
How's your day going so far?
All good. So should we wait around for about, 10 minutes at least before we start?
Nathan said he'd be here in a little bit. He's going to be probably 5 minutes late today. So I figure we just chat a little bit for now until he gets here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, first off, Aqua Wallet, that's kind of the topic today. I really like Aqua Wallet. I think that it's doing really well. I've been recommending it to a lot of people that are looking for a Lightning wallet, something that's just good for making payments, doing stuff with like merchants. And I find it very simple to use because you have something that just takes away all of the complications of having to think about, a Lightning node, because you're not really using Lightning with this wallet. You're holding the liquid at all times, but it seamlessly interacts with Lightning wallets and can go both ways with that. So I'm just curious, I'm kind of curious, like how long before you released it was this like in the works? Like, have you guys been thinking about this for a while, or was it kind of like something that just came about?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Well, how many months were we developing Aqua before we launched it? And I can elaborate on the launch. It's pretty funny, actually.
Well, that's a two-part process, really, because Aqua was already half made by Samson over at Blockstream. So much of the foundations for the wallet were actually there. Obviously, the Lightning part was new, but it was always a Liquid and Bitcoin wallet that managed to unite both technologies in a single place. So from there on, it was just a matter of finding a way to add Lightning on top of it in some shape or form. Probably a year before launch, it was most of the development work. Maybe you can add something on top of that, Andrew. But in the end, the foundation was already there, and it was just a new, novel way to bring Liquid to a mainstream use case by giving people the chance to use Lightning within Aqua.
Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty funny looking back because, as you guys probably recall, we launched it on January 3rd, and the name of our company that launched Aqua was Jan 3. And so Samson was really pushing for that date of January 3rd. And at the time, I was thinking, wow, this is kind of crazy. Like, this guy is like really set on this date, and I didn't know how we would do it, but we did it. And it's a pretty fortuitous, ironic day, to launch it on January 3rd. So it all worked out pretty well. We had obviously some bugs and some kinks in the beginning, which is typical really of any wallet, I think. No matter how many beta testers you have, you're just not going to have the same kind of feedback as just launching it in the open market. But we've had the wallet improve quite a lot since then, especially with our last couple updates. We've really been listening to the feedback that we get from users. We've had 38,000 downloads now just since January, which we're pretty proud of. So, yeah, we'll be posting some more announcements on what exactly the new last couple updates entail, but it's a lot of really good improvement from feedback we gotten from users.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's insightful to hear that it was planned out. I can imagine getting that January 3rd launch. I'm sure was like really a big deal. I remember when it came out on that day, I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. Like, they tried to fit it in with the name. So I know you guys use Bolt Exchange to do the peg in and peg outs of Liquid when you're receiving via Lightning or sending out to a Lightning invoice. Do you want to touch on some of that? Like, is there like a formal partnership going on? Or, like, how connected are they to, I guess, like Blockstream or Liquid in general? Like, what's the relationship there?
Well, from a technical standpoint, it's actually not Well, it's not a direct swap, or at least that's not the way the user sees it inside the wallet. The type of relationship that we have with vaults. Obviously, there is a partnership there, but the whole point of Aqua is actually taking away that process away from the user. So essentially, what you're doing in Aqua when you're generating an invoice is you're creating an invoice just like you would on any other Lightning wallet, and the same goes for when you're making a payment. Swaps are wholly different, which is when you actually, for example, you got a bunch of sats on Lightning and you want to take that over to on-chain, then you do a proper swap, or what we would call a proper swap. But outside of that, yeah, Bolt helps us take away all the complexity from the user so that they don't have to manage channels like you mentioned towards the start.
Right. So is there different infrastructure going on when you send from Aqua with like the Lightning capabilities via bolts and the normal like Bitcoin? Because I know like if you send out Bitcoin, you're just interacting with base chain Bitcoin, right? Like, am I
Correct.
understanding that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So then if I receive Liquid, it would just be like a Liquid base chain transaction as well. So it's really just for that Lightning is what Bolt is there to provide.
Yes, that is 100% correct.
Good. Okay. Yeah, and like you said, like I found that when I recommend it, I was just talking to someone yesterday that was interested in Lightning wallets, and I was like, they're like, they know how the blockchain works and the layer one Bitcoin, but it can be a little. They weren't like, they're still relatively new to it, and they wanted something that was just a little seamless. And I know that like Lightning, even for people that have been in the space for a while, it can be a little intimidating when you're looking at, okay, I opened up a Lightning channel and all the liquidity is on your side and you can't receive anything yet. So there's issues with that. And then, people get confused by that. They get turned off by it. And it creates kind of a rough user experience out of the get-go that I try to avoid when I'm telling people about like that. And that's why I like custodial Lightning wallets for someone that's new to it. And then try to like, okay, now that you understand this is why you would want to run a Lightning node and why you'd want to maybe even just use something like Phoenix or Mutiny Wallet or Zeus, where you can have an LSP that allows you to self-custody your Bitcoin, but have a channel yourself and then learn how that liquidity works. But something like Aqua, where you're not even thinking about that and you never have to think about it, and you're using Liquid. I have to say, like the Liquid experience, just out of just when Aqua released in January, the fees have gone down. I found it works like so much better now, like for that stuff, because now just because the fees are lower, even though they weren't that high to begin with, it just becomes like such a better experience. I see we got motorists up here. Hey, did you have a question for them, or did you want to add something?
Absolutely. So I'm kind of joined your conversation late, but I just wanted to jump on and say what a big fan I am of Aqua Wallet. So I've had no experience with Liquid at all until I downloaded Aqua Wallet about a month ago and started experimenting with it. And I feel like I've become kind of a Liquid pro using Liquid through Aqua Wallet. So I just wanted to come up here and say I'm a huge fan, and I've been using it, and I'm very, very happy with it. I had one issue when I first started using it, which was that when I receive a Lightning payment, there's a swap that happens, I believe, through bolts in the background that swaps it from Lightning automatically into Liquid. So even though it's technically a custodial Lightning transaction, it actually gets immediately swapped in the background into a Liquid wallet. So I like that about it. But one issue that I ran into was that because there's a slight fee from the swap, that the amount on the invoice was not the same as the amount that ended up on the Lightning wallet. It was, I think, maybe like 1,000 sat or a few hundred sats difference. But that was quickly solved because I was able to figure out, because Bolt actually has a website where you can go in and you can type in the amount that you actually need to receive, and it'll tell you what the amount on the invoice should be to get that amount, because they'll do the calculation for you. So if that's the issue that you run into. It's actually super, super easy and super convenient. So I just want to come up here and say I'm a big fan, and I'm very happy using Aqua Wallet. There is one slight thing that I could say about Aqua, just as a suggestion, something to work on that could be a slight improvement. So currently, I couldn't find out a way to label my Lightning invoices. So that means that I can basically only give out one Lightning invoice at a time. So if there was a method where I could label each one of the Lightning invoices, so I could have, say, 2 outstanding invoices at the same time, that would make it a little bit easier. Because now if I just send out 2 invoices and one of them gets paid and one of them doesn't, I won't know exactly for sure which one got paid and which one didn't. So if there's a way that could be done, I would greatly appreciate it. But other than that, I just wanted to just come up here real quickly and say I'm a big fan of Aqua Wallet, and I highly recommend it, especially if you're trying to experiment with Liquid and kind of start using Liquid.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that a lot. I think I'm pretty sure we've gotten that request a few times actually, and we've discussed that internally. So yeah, appreciate the feedback. And it's great to hear. We've seen people posting on Twitter talking about how they pay their 9-year-old daughter's allowance with Aqua, and it seems to be that it's a pretty primary go-to wallet when you're orange pilling a newbie. Because I like other wallets too. I've been playing around with wallets for years and years, but the idea of, let's say you want to tip your waiter or something in Bitcoin and you're out to dinner, and you have to have them download this complicated app, and you have to have them fund the wallet at first and open up a channel, and it's just way too confusing. So yeah, definitely a lot of people like using Aqua because with the advantage of it being a Liquid native wallet, they don't have to manage any channels. And I know there's debate about Liquid being custodial versus non-custodial, and there's points on both sides of the equation. But at the very least, it's even if you think it's somewhat custodial, it's a lot less custodial than having a federation model is a lot better than other quote custodial models. And it's also, I believe it's the oldest layer 2 as well around since 2018. It was launched and conceptualized in 2016, 2017. So yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, adding to that, you touch upon a great point, which is that in the end, I think our goal is to be exactly the type of wallet that you would recommend to someone that's new, because we all go through that internal debate at some point. So you want to get someone into Bitcoin, you want to do it the right way, but what are you going to give them that's not too complex, that's not going to scare them? And that's the type of user experience that we're gunning for. So you get basically most of the things that Bitcoin has to offer, and the sense that it's connected to other technologies, and you get stuff that are useful, that is useful for people too. You get stable coins on the side, and you get Lightning, which is how most people get orange pill nowadays. And well, you get original recipe Bitcoin if that's what they want eventually.
Yeah, and I think that's I think you guys are fitting that niche really well. I don't see any other wallets really taking advantage of Liquid other than, Blockstream Green does a good job. I used them prior to Aqua for just a Liquid wallet for my phone. But yeah, having that Lightning swap capability really helps a lot. I'm actually curious, what are do you guys have like plans that you want to talk about for future developments with Aqua? Maybe even if they're just like minor changes or updates, what do you guys like kind of looking in the future for?
Raul, maybe we should talk about the most recent ones from 2.0.
Yeah, sure. For example, one of the things Motorist mentioned that I think we are close to perfecting by this update is giving users all the information that they need about all the swaps, how their Lightning payments are processed in case they have any types of issues with them when they peg in or peg out of Liquid, so they could actually be able to track their transactions properly. Basically, that they have all the info that they need and the fee breakdown right at their disposal. So that's one of the big things that we upgraded, which is probably something newcomers are not that mindful for, but definitely veteran Bitcoin users are usually the first ones to ask about that. So that's one of the recent features. We also added something that I believe it's really important, which is the ability to pay for fees using Tether USDT. Because, like we said, if we're striving to make to reach more Bitcoin users, what we, at least from my perspective, and well, Andrew's based in Latin America as well. So what we get here is that most people nowadays are not onboarded onto Bitcoin directly. They get into Bitcoin after they start using a stable coin like Tether or USDT. That's basically it. And they're looking for a way to use that first. So we give them the option to be able to use that USDT right away without having to even interact with Bitcoin as a strict requirement. That's another big one. And obviously, you mentioned the lower fees, I think, are a huge competitive advantage. We ran the math, and I believe by now, basically, if you take a rough sample of, I don't know, 100,000 sats, 500,000 sats, and you start making a bunch of transactions, it's going to be quite competitive with most of the non-custodial, and even to some extent the custodial Lightning wallets that you have out there, especially when you consider that there is no initial setup cost, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to open up a channel, I mean, sometimes it can cost anywhere from $7 to $10, and especially for people in Latin America, there's no way that they're going to want to pay $7 to $10 US just to receive Bitcoin. So that's a huge barrier for basically billions of people to be able to use Bitcoin in a much easier way now. I'm just looking at some stats here. So yeah, fees now a lot cheaper. So if you're sending Lightning, it's 40 sats per transaction. If you're sending Liquid, it's 30 sats per transaction. And then if you're sending Tether, it's 3 cents per transaction. What else? The instant refunds are also another update that we had. So previously, using Aqua, if your Lightning payment failed, you would have to wait like several hours sometimes to get a refund. And that was a big complaint we were having. So yeah, again, just listen to the feedback and now you get an instant refund if for whatever reason a Lightning payment fails. So yeah, we're super happy about a lot of these updates that we've had.
Yeah, that's great. And, I said earlier, the recommending this to someone that's new, doesn't understand Lightning is a key part of like why Aqua, in my opinion, is one of the better wallets right now, especially for transacting with merchants and just using. And like you touched on, with people having to spend, $5-10 sometimes to set up a Lightning channel. Right now I think fees are a little abnormally low. I don't think they're going to be like this forever. I'm surprised they've been holding so low. But to say personal experience, like I never really used Liquid like as much as I do now. Back when I had like the green wallet, just because you kind of felt siloed off from the rest of people using Bitcoin. And you're like, all right, there weren't a lot of use cases where I'd have someone that wanted to receive Liquid. And now it's like, okay, I could have Liquid, I could use a Jade or a green wallet or my Aqua wallet, and now I can bring it to my Aqua wallet and then send it out via Lightning. And that's just like such an easy user experience plus to add to it. I see Nathan's up here now, so I want to give him a chance to jump into the conversation and say anything that he wants to say too. Are you there, Nathan? Okay, I don't think he can hear me right now.
Hey, the Bitcoin way is here. Nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you're more than welcome to come up. And anyone else in the audience, if you want to come up and ask a question or just join in on the conversation, feel free to raise your hand. I'll invite you up to talk. I'm actually a little curious about Tether and what I know that you mentioned, people in like Latin America, some of these like less wealthy countries that don't have as much extra savings are looking for something that resembles a dollar, has that stable value relative to their local fiat currency. What's the idea with Tether in Aqua Wallet? Where are you guys planning on going with that? And kind of like how it works. Because I actually don't really know too much about how Tether sits on top of Liquid. So if you want to go into that.
Yeah. Okay. So I just sent you a DM. By the way, would check that. If you can somehow post that in the chat. I'm kind of a boomer with Twitter Spaces, so I don't think I can do that myself.
I'll take care of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're the host, so I can't even do that. But that graph I just sent you, which we posted from the Aqua account, shows, okay, if you're sending a $10 transaction, it compares the cost with Liquid, with Tron, and Ethereum. And Liquid is now, I mean, the fees obviously vary with Tron and Ethereum, but Liquid is now the cheapest chain to use Tether on. So, Tether's on Ethereum, Tron, Liquid, a bunch of chains. And right now, the most predominant chain is Tron for a variety of reasons. I mean, I know that when they first started spreading Tether on Tron, Tron would spend a bunch of money and have people go use it in Latin America, and that's how they did that. But Liquid also has a lot of advantages too that not a lot of people talk about. For example, you have confidential transactions on the Liquid network. So if I'm sending you Tether, you can't see how much I'm sending you, and you can't see the asset type, which is pretty interesting from a privacy perspective. So yeah, Raúl, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the different chains and Tether itself.
Yeah, mainly,
in Latin America.
I think it has a lot to do with the way we have seen the adoption process develop throughout Latin America and all developing countries, really. In fact, we're glad we saw a significant uptick in downloads from Nigeria, which is a huge market and also very big that shares the same traits as many countries in Latin America. I'm from Venezuela, so I get that. I lived that for the past 7 years or so. But what you see in countries like Argentina and Venezuela, and to a lesser extent Mexico and Colombia, is that at some point people, they use solely Bitcoin at first. When they started having the possibility of defaulting to a dollar-denominated value, most people did. At least those that weren't into Bitcoin necessarily for ideological reasons, that they hated banks or they wanted to take down the system or whatever. And a large part of that was the success of Tron, which was the network that basically not that aware of that system, but basically it solely exists now because of Tether USDT on Tron, essentially. And you start noticing that people are preferring to use that. So if you're going to reach 10 million or more users in Latin America now, you got to give them what they want, and what they want is to be able to use a stable coin, to use the stable coin, really, which is Tether, thus in the smoothest way possible. What's the smoothest way possible? Well, you don't got to worry about things like gas or actually having liquid Bitcoin, which adds another layer of complexity. I don't know, if you want to send $10 to your grandma or something like that, or to your cousin that had never heard of this Bitcoin thing, or he's new to all of this, you just want to say, hey, here's $10. Look how easy it is. Look how simple, quick, fast, cheap it is. And now you can send that to your local exchange and just exchange that for local currency, which is the type of use that you see the most in places like Latin America and all of them. So that's basically the goal. I think we believe that it's essential to be able to onboard people, to offer the most utility possible, so that they have a proper wallet super app that they don't have to get out of for too many reasons. So you can have your a significant amount of savings in Bitcoin, your Bitcoin that you use for spending, and some money around for fixed expenses that you have every month. I don't know, a few $100 in Tether or less money, depends on what your budget is. That's basically the whole logic behind it.
Yeah, it's funny too, because who hates the dollar the most is American Bitcoiners, but so many people in other countries absolutely love the dollar. And I'm not like some super big, I a lover of the dollar or anything like that. Like central banking is a total scam. The dollar is unconstitutional. Yada yada yada. We can do a whole Twitter space about how horrible the dollar is. But at the same time, denying the demand for Tether is totally insane. Like if I've seen Bitcoiners on Twitter just hate on Tether, and I get it. No fiat currency will last forever, but the demand for this is just undeniable. Like they have more U.S. Treasury bonds than Germany, the UAE, and Australia. They have $97 billion worth of U.S. Treasuries. They made like $6 billion in revenue last year. Tether is a powerhouse, and so that's why I like Aqua, because when you open up Aqua Wallet, you've got two sections. You've got savings account and spending account. And getting people in that mental model of, okay, well, I spend dollars and I save in Bitcoin, and offering them access to dollars via Tether is very powerful. And I think this is a very underrated orange pilling tool for a lot of people in the global south.
Yeah, just to add one more thing to what Andrew said. Well, I mean, we have the numbers. 60% of all cryptocurrency transactions in Latin America are stablecoins. So that's the ideal way to get a few more million people using Bitcoin. That's the quickest, most easy way to do that.
No, it's funny, and I apologize, guys. I was late joining in on the conversation, so it's already been touched on. Again, my apologies. But no, I think you're absolutely right. That one of the most important things when we're going out here and we're advocating for Bitcoin is we got to meet people where they are and show it how it solves the problem that they have in their life. So if the problem they have currently and where they're at is this need for dollars, which again, for them, that's moving to a sounder currency than what they're currently using, then showing how that can be powered by Bitcoin is just another amazing avenue to get them used to the infrastructure, used to the network, familiar, build that trust, and hopefully move them from that checking account to the savings account on Aqua.
Correct. Just as a side note, as a personal anecdote, since we're on SegWit activation date, and I recall that's basically around the same time I've been into Bitcoin. Back then, you didn't have this huge stablecoin behemoth to compete with when you were trying to get people to use Bitcoin in Latin America. They all used Bitcoin because that's all they had, and it was fine. People adapted to it. But once you had it's not exactly a competitor. Once you had stable coins enter the equation, you saw how the whole process that you went through, how you were trying to orange pill people in the past, changes dramatically once you add that in as well, because it's going to be easier to give people both options right from the get-go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that just to touch on what you were saying earlier, Tron being used so much, and basically it's a zombie chain at this point, like you said, just being used to transact in Tether. And I'm in the camp that, all fiat currencies are going to trend to zero when compared to Bitcoin. But I recognize that that's not going to happen in a day, and that if anything, the US dollar is going to be the last one. And there's a lot of people that need that. They have debt that's denominated in dollars, and they might need the Tether for that. And I think that at the very least, having an option like Aqua Wallet, where you have Tether with Liquid, the fees are lower, and you can swap into Bitcoin much more easy with that. You're not dealing with Tron. That's just like such a huge bonus to for these people that, like you said, like they just want dollars, and they don't necessarily care about what's going on in the background, but at least the background is a little bit better than it was previously. So yeah.
Oh, I completely agree, Ed. Completely agree. I'm curious if you guys touched on privacy earlier before I jumped on.
We didn't yet.
Andrew and Raúl, I'm kind of curious, because to me it seems like Aqua also adds the added benefit of privacy of kind of obfuscating on-chain transactions. I was wondering if that's something that you guys thought about building it in, being that you're swapping onto Liquid or then going using bolts to come out, or what your kind of thoughts on that are.
Well, I think it's just it comes bundled with Liquid, basically. It's not that you have to think it through a lot. It's just the way that Liquid was built. So yeah, that we do get that question a fair bit from users, but it depends on how privacy-oriented people are. Again, it's really, I don't believe it's the number one concern for most users, but it is something that you can take advantage of. In the end, Bitcoin privacy is only as good as your worst privacy measures. So it's really up to the individual user every time. You do get confidential transactions with Liquid, and you do get some obfuscation when you go in and out of Liquid, but it all depends on how careful you are with your overall funds.
That does seem to be kind of a recurring question that comes up for me, is how to kind of get some privacy in the transactions. Could you maybe just even expand upon that? Let's say I'm a user who wasn't too familiar with, not reusing addresses and haven't really had the best kind of UTXO management going on here. And I want to buy some stuff, but I want to kind of hide the trail a little bit. How can Aqua help me with that?
I don't know. What are you buying it with? Are you buying it with Bitcoin? You're buying it with cash, or?
Let's go with I'm at a Bitcoin market and I want to buy some stuff, but my balance is bigger than I want to show.
Your balance wouldn't show if you're using Liquid. If you send a Liquid transaction, you can't see the amount that you're transacting.
Right.
Which is phenomenal benefit. And if I understand correctly too, we also now have the direct peg in Aqua. So if I've got an on-chain transaction, but I want to make a small purchase with Andrew, if I understand it correctly, I can directly peg into Aqua using that peg-in address, swap it into Liquid, which is then confidential transactions. And I can even then send that out over Lightning if I wanted to further obfuscate where it originated from.
Yeah, that's pretty much correct.
Yeah, I like Nathan just said, that was immediately what popped into my head. I hear a lot of people asking, if I take my on-chain Bitcoin, peg it into the Liquid BTC, and then move it around there, and then move it out in different UTXOs back onto on-chain Bitcoin, is that is that similar to a coin join? Is it better? Is it worse? Like, I'm not the best with how Liquid works personally, so I can't attest to, like, I know certain things like you said, like how balances aren't shown with Liquid, the confidential transactions, but how good is it as like a privacy tool when compared to something like Lightning, maybe?
So I would explain it in the same terms that Adam Back does, which is that is indeed an extra layer of privacy. However, I don't think you can go and hack an exchange and pretend that you're not going to get caught with $50 million that you stole just because you did that one single step. Because in the end, again, it's not a conjoin. You're not dividing a bunch of input, outputs, etc. So it's still a relatively simple transaction. So for most
Very
privacy purpose, it's actually pretty helpful, but not for criminals, definitely.
Rest in peace, Samurai and Wasabi. Seriously, rest in peace, by the way.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad.
100%.
It is very sad. Yeah, I had to mention that.
No, I appreciate it, Andrew. And I'm actually curious if you've got any insight on with the situation currently with Samurai and Wasabi, if there are any privacy tools in the space that you're interested in, or you think people should check out in the meantime while that's all kind of being dealt with.
I don't want to comment on any of that. I don't want to poke the bear.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. There will be no comments on that whatsoever. Motorist, I'm curious if you have any other questions or comments for our awesome guests here.
Yeah, real quick. I'm really enjoying the conversation, and I think Edward made a really, really good point about how you can use Aqua Wallet in conjunction with Jade or Green Address if you have a situation where, let's say you get, let's say Green Wallet is your primary wallet, and you receive a Liquid transaction, and you need some help, swapping in and out, and you can't figure out how to exactly do it with Green Wallet. You can just spin up an Aqua Wallet and import your key and do it that way. And I think that's super super useful. One thing that you guys mentioned, Wasabi. One of the things that I really liked about Wasabi is that it allows really, really good UTXO management. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's something that every user needs, but somebody like me, I want to be able to figure out this UTXO came from this source. And if I want to send a transaction using only that UTXO, I want to be able to do it. I can do that with Wasabi. I don't know if that's necessarily something that Aqua needs to work on, but it is kind of a feature that I do like. And I don't know if Aqua has any plans of adding that type of feature in the future, but it's just kind of something that I think is cool about Wasabi. It's not necessarily a coin join. It's just standard UTXO management. I don't know if that's something that Aqua is thinking about doing at some point in the future.
We've discussed that in the past, but I think it's more of an advanced user type of feature that we would look to add later on, much later on. Perhaps maybe when we do a desktop version that would also probably be compatible with Jade, for example. So now you would be able to use a single wallet for that entire process that you just described. For now, I think going back to Ed's previous question, we're looking to add features that are more beginner friendly or that are more inclined to make more normie type of people to get to use Aqua. So maybe these might be integrations that help people use Bitcoin Tether Aqua within within a certain localized economy.
I'm curious, just kind of on that subject as well, too. What are the kind of roadblocks? Because you guys are doing a lot of work basically evangelizing and really getting this out there. What are you finding when you're meeting people on the ground in terms of their hesitations, or what really prevents them to even trying to use Tether over Liquid and Aqua?
I mean, a lot of the feedback we see is from Bitcoiners using it. So we can only personally orange pill so many people ourselves and get so many people to use it. So I'm not entirely sure if we can give like a full answer to that question. I mean, it's really boils down to what you see on Twitter. And Raul, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but
yeah, I've had a few friends use it, especially not like your typical hardcore Bitcoiner friends. So it might provide some useful insight. And I guess it all comes down to fees and how easy you're able to basically move your money around. And that's something that we're also looking to improve so that, I think that by now a lot of even local exchanges in Latin America do support Lightning. Or at least there's a growing number of them that do. So you have that indistinctly that you don't have support for the liquid tether. And well, there's also Bitcoin, which might be cheap or it might not be, depending on how on-chain traffic is going on at the moment. But our ability to reduce fees, which is something that we just did, and we have plans to sort of improve that in the medium term, at least, to be able to, for example, send some of that liquid USDT over to your friend who's never heard of liquid but only uses Tron, so that in a way that you can still do it cheaply for about the same price that a Tron transaction costs now. I think that that's a huge advantage that we are looking to capture because you're already seeing people that got used to using Tether via Tron complaining, hey man, if you're in Argentina, $2 for a $20 transaction, that's a hefty fee. So that's usually the number one thing. That's why we wanted to get this update out, because of fees are still probably the number one thing people care about. And it's also one of the main advantages. Liquid is incredibly cheap. It's right up there with some of the more obscure shitcoin chains at the moment.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
I completely agree. I've been using Liquid even just for orange pilling and sending a couple sats to friends and these things too, versus worrying about opening up a new Lightning channel. I've just found it easier. And again, the price is fine. It's great.
Yeah, correct. And it'll be cheaper if you use an Aqua.
Yeah.
And I do.
So I just want to say again, anyone in the audience that wants to come up, ask a question, feel free to raise your hand. We'll have you up here. So you guys both work with Jan3, and other than Aqua Wallet, what are some of the things that you guys are doing there? If you want to share some of that stuff.
Yeah, so a lot. It's crazy the amount of inbound we get. A lot of support for Jan3. A lot of Bitcoiners really believe in what we're doing, and it's really nice to see. We get emails from just random Bitcoiners all over the world who maybe have some loose connection to somebody in politics or a close connection, but it's really a group effort, and we appreciate everybody who wants to work with us. So so there's the nation state side. Samson is a lot of this we can't talk about, but I mean, I can say in very ambiguous, vague terms. But yeah, Samsung is having a meeting with a certain Asian country in the somewhat near future. So we're working on that. We would love to speak with Malay. We've been working on from multiple angles on trying to make that happen. But he's a hard guy to get in contact with. But that's a big meeting that we would absolutely love to have. Yeah, so those, and other countries you've seen us be involved with in the past. It's a really slow process. Like, other than banks, governments are pretty much the slowest moving organizations known to mankind. So I know everybody wants us to like announce the next country that has made Bitcoin legal tender, but it takes a lot of time and it's not easy. So there's that, and then there's also Jan3 Financial, which is interesting. So people can buy and sell Bitcoin via OTC. We help them do that with Jan3 Financial. And it's very interesting seeing the kind of people that are brought to us, kind of customers that are brought to us. We've helped out multiple politicians, one of them in Europe, actually. We've helped out celebrities. We've helped out a billionaire with a B. And so I can't say specifically who anybody is, but just from a firsthand experience, it's pretty makes one be bullish having these conversations and seeing the caliber of people buying Bitcoin right now. Adoption will not always be televised.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely interested. Obviously, don't go into specifics if you can't or you're not comfortable doing that. But what's that like? Talking to nation states or even just like famous people that you would like a normal person would recognize, and maybe like what's the orange pilling strategy? What are some of the things that you're bringing up when you talk about this stuff and getting them into Bitcoin? Because I imagine it's different from when you're talking to like a friend or a family member. I'm kind of curious into the insights of that because I don't think most people are talking to heads of government or congressmen on a daily basis.
So I've been saying this for years. The most effective, powerful tool for orange pilling, linguistic tool, I believe, is just showing people how many other notable individuals own it. Human beings are patch-like creatures, love it or hate it, and nobody wants to be the first mover, especially with something like Bitcoin because of the kind of reputation it's had on the media in the past. The media has kind of changed their tune a lot the last few years. Much of the media is now pro-Bitcoin, but that wasn't always the case. There's still a lot of anti-Bitcoin politicians, although in America it's becoming a lot more nonpartisan. But just basic points like the fact that the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, owns Bitcoin and is bullish on Bitcoin and said there can only ever be one Bitcoin. Co-founder of Apple, the CEO of Apple owns it. The co-founder of LinkedIn is also bullish on Bitcoin. Jack Dorsey, of course. Elon Musk still owns a good amount of Bitcoin. All these names, all these people, it's very compelling. And not in a demeaning way, but really the ultimate question, if somebody is a Bitcoin skeptic, is okay, what do you know that these people don't? I mean, at what point would all these successful people just buy into a scam, or is there something here, and is it possible that you don't know everything and this thing isn't going away, right? So, and even seeing Trump speak about it, Trump's love him or hate him, he's a powerful guy, and he's a businessman, and he is not. I don't believe he's a stupid guy, and for him to speak about the United States government not only intentionally continuing to own their Bitcoin and not actively sell it, but acquire more, that is extremely compelling. So anyway, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's a very powerful way I find to have a conversation with somebody regarding Bitcoin, is basically triangulate the conversation and show how adopted this thing really is.
No, that's a very good point. I really appreciate that. That's actually, we're social creatures, right? We're dogs, we're not cats. Sometimes it's easy just to show them who's already in the club in order to bring them in. I'm actually curious, Andrew, because it seems like you've thought about this a lot. It at least feels to me right now like we're kind of at a low in terms of no coiner interest, that the retail isn't really showing up at this moment. Even with everything going on, particularly I was thinking about Trump in Nashville there. If you have any thoughts into why things are still maybe a little bit quiet, or maybe they're not and I just don't see it.
They're quiet because the most painful outcome will always occur with Bitcoin. And I base that on no charts whatsoever other than my own anecdotal experience since 2017. I remember, it's funny, I was saying to my dad, we had those rumors before Trump gave that speech, right? I think Dennis Porter posted about a week before, he was like, bid announcement coming, David Bailey, bid announcement coming. We had the rumors that Trump would talk about the United States government owning Bitcoin and having a strategic national stockpile, right? But Trump said it. But I remember telling my dad, I said, if he makes this announcement, don't expect the price to go up. I said, I actually wouldn't be surprised if the price went down after that, which I'm pretty sure is exactly what happened. And I remember being at the Bitcoin conference in Miami back in, 2021, when El Salvador announced that they are making it legal tender, and the price dipped after that, which is totally hilarious. So that, this whole thing of like this big news piece is going to come out and then Bitcoin's going to 10x the next day. I always just stick to the idea of just hope for the best, plan for the worst. Most painful outcome will always, for whatever reason, occur, and just hang on to this thing for years. Bitcoin either destroys your soul or makes you a very tough individual who can weather pain.
It's either one or the other. There's not too much in between there, that's for sure. Just a reminder for everybody in the audience, if you do have any questions, if you want to come up and ask anything on stage, you have a comment, or you just want to riff on something with us, we'd love to have you here. Guys, I'm curious if maybe there's anything outside of Jan3 and Aqua in the Bitcoin space in general that you're interested in right now, that maybe has your attention or you think might be something worth checking out.
Go ahead, Raúl.
I think this has been an interesting year overall because you basically had a whole new thing in the form of Bitcoin ETFs that is starting to normalize Bitcoin for more people, and I guess that might be partly due to why you don't see as much normie interest as you just said. So I think, I don't know, well, on the one hand, Bitcoin quietly went from $16,000 to $70K in, I don't know, just a matter of a few months. So it's not like we didn't already experience a wild upwards movement. There's that. And in the end, you have to, the way you get people to get into Bitcoin, and this goes for your dad, your sister, your friend, your neighbor, and precedents is finding or explaining to them what Bitcoin can do for them, basically, or how it will be useful to them. And that's usually my number one area of interest. So I think mining is very interesting at the moment, and in the end, FOMO is what drives the Bitcoin price up, essentially. And let's remember that Bukele and El Salvador basically FOMO'd it into Bitcoin. They were at a loss for a significant amount of time in their Bitcoin purchases. So if you're going to see something from a country, or if you're going to see widespread interest, it's probably going to come way later down the line, rather than at this moment where we seem to be consolidating at a previous high. So basically right now we're at like 20K Bitcoin in 2020. This is basically the moment we're at. And it's not there then when people start going nuts all into Bitcoin, and when you start getting old messages from friends of, hey, I know you were into this Bitcoin thing. What can you tell me about it? Obviously, there's a lesser degree to that because, again, we're going more mainstream. And when you start seeing more Bitcoin jokes on skits on TV, on YouTube, TikTok, whatever. It's the way people FOMO into it. That, oh, maybe I didn't miss my chance. Oh, maybe I should consider this Bitcoin thing one more time.
You mentioned briefly, I just want to double click on something. You mentioned mining being interesting right now. Was there something specific that you were referring to?
Yeah, sort of rambled a bit. But yeah, mining is still the number one way for any country to get into Bitcoin. Well, not any country, countries that have spare energy. I think Canada is one of the biggest examples. I think Canada has a huge surplus of hydroelectric energy. I think close to the border with the U.S. I think it sells a lot of energy to the U.S. Though, at least from the last time that I did some research on that, and it's kind of it's a shame to see a lot of energy go to waste that way. When you have a bunch of power that you could use to technically uh, get money that you out of nowhere, at least the way you see it, if you're a public institution or an investor that has nothing to do with Bitcoin, and that you're not using all that power to get some extra funds that you can use to build infrastructure for public spending, etc. I think that's quite a shame, and it's changing because, well, younger people are getting into office all over the world, and a lot of people. It's basically a process that we're seeing. A lot of senators, governors, majors all over the world, they might have had some contact with Bitcoin, and it's only a matter of time before they start to implement that into some of their policies. And mining is usually the way to go because it's the easiest ones. If you think back to how a lot of people got into Bitcoin, I have some extra power or hardware that I might be able to use and get some extra internet money. Is usually one of the most common ways people get into that. No, there's no reason why governments can't do the same.
No, it's very interesting points there. Even just the idea of that these things kind of change one generation at a time, that for on the grander scale, we might have to wait for people to retire or step aside before the Bitcoiners can kind of take office or take those positions. And then just even on a side note there, commenting on Canada, as the, I think, lone Canadian up here, it is so unbelievably frustrating that we have like excess for like BC hydro, Quebec hydro, Alberta is chock full of hydrocarbons, Saskatchewan's got uranium, yet we're not a global leader in Bitcoin mining. It's stupid. We have unbelievable amounts of energy, but we just got bad people and maybe bad incentives in the way. And without that, after that little brief rant, Andrew, what are you excited about in the space right now? What are you paying attention to?
Well, we're getting to that time where I am in no way a big charts bro or trend guy or anything like that. But, I mean, generally, what is it, like a year, 18 months after the halving, we enter a bull run. So we're getting into that territory now. I'm looking forward to not having many people think I'm an idiot. I always say that basically the emotional cycle of somebody in Bitcoin is people think you're an idiot for 3 years, and then for maybe about one of those 3 years, they think you're a genius. So that's going to be fun. What else? I mean, back to the government topic. I mean, you would be. I'm not talking about presidents or anything like this, but you would be surprised to know how many government officials already own Bitcoin, just personally, that we've been in contact with. And so, of course, their government may not own Bitcoin, but they themselves own it. Not every single one, but a fair amount that we've been in contact with. So that's pretty fun to see. There are people too. I mean, there are a lot of corrupt politicians out there, and I'm not just glorifying them, but a lot of people in government, aren't bad, and they have their own incentives too. And they did a paycheck in fiat, and they want to plan for their future as well. So, yeah, I would say, those two things. If Trump gets elected, I greatly look forward to seeing what happens with Bitcoin under those circumstances as well.
On that point, I think that's actually anytime I hear people talk about that, like a government's going to ban or shut down Bitcoin, that is one of my golden go-tos. It's like, nah, these governments are just made out of people that are probably hoarding it and just need it just as bad as everybody else. So the incentives align for absolutely everybody to get on board with Bitcoin. And I really think the work that you're doing is incredibly important, and it's just a matter of time in terms of adoption. I do want to be respectful of your guys' time as we're getting close to the top of the hour. Just a reminder, if anybody in the audience does have any quick questions you want to come up and ask or chat with us. Motorist, before we wrap things up, what's on your mind? Anything that you'd like to add?
I'm just really excited listening to what Raúl and Andrew are talking about. You know, we all were excited about El Salvador, and I'm sure El Salvador is there, in Latin America, leading the adoption of Bitcoin along with a lot of the other countries, Venezuela and a lot of the other countries. So really excited to hear Raúl talk about Bitcoin and Tether adoption. I mean, Tether. And a lot of the points that Andrew was making regarding, we're inside this Bitcoiner bubble where we don't really care what celebrities think, but when you're talking to normies, believe it or not, a fair amount of them do actually care especially with billionaires and maybe not celebrities so much because of what happened with FTX, but yeah, if billionaires are aping into Bitcoin, that might be a good talking point. It's not something that if you're talking to another Bitcoiner, we wouldn't necessarily care about, but we're in our own echo chamber a lot of times, and we're not kind of familiar with how a normie would think about this. Oh, Elon Musk, he likes Bitcoin. Maybe I should look into that one more time. So yeah, really appreciate the conversation I'm hearing.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with everything you guys have been saying too. I think, no matter how close you are to that fiat money printer, you need money that's going to hold value, and that's Bitcoin, and that applies to first world countries and even some of the countries on the edge that don't have as large economies and their currencies are hyperinflating. The people in those countries and the government officials in those countries, they're all going to be incentivized to have Bitcoin, and banning it is just not going to be in their self-interest. Like Nathan was saying, like there's just so many things. I'm really bullish that we're looking at like a train that can't be stopped. The money is going to be devalued, especially against Bitcoin. And what else do you need than a secure decentralized money that everyone, once they're in it, wants it to win? That's the kind of cooperative teamwork that you want out of like this global monetary system. It's going to benefit everybody that's using it, no matter where they're coming from and what their use case for it is. So that's you guys being involved in helping nation states kind of key into that and helping orange pill those people and creating more favorable regulations and jurisdictions for this is a huge benefit for the whole world, honestly, and the people in those countries. Like you said, like if Trump gets in, then I personally think that we're going to have a much better time with regulation and legislation that passes. But I don't think that someone anti-Bitcoin coming in is going to kill it either. Like it might just change the way that we go about and navigate the future. So totally excited for the future that it holds. I want to leave you guys a chance to tell people where they can reach you or where they can follow you. Obviously, give these guys a follow, and any closing statements that you guys want to make.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Nice conversation. You can, if you want to get involved with anything nation state related. Well, first of all, a lot of people send us emails and say, "Hey, I want to work for you." We really appreciate it, but if there's, we get a lot of emails. So if you want to work for us, check Bitcoiner Jobs. We always post job ads there. But other than that, yeah, the other avenue where we could potentially work together is just if you are maybe somewhat connected with somebody in government, if you've been working in government yourself, if you somehow, some way feel that you could be an asset to nation state Bitcoin adoption, then we're always open to have a conversation. And so, yeah, just jan3.com. That's where you can reach out to us.
Awesome. Raúl, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think like Ed mentioned, if you have any newcomer friends, people that are new into Bitcoin, I would encourage them, please encourage them to follow Aqua Bitcoin. If you have Spanish-speaking friends, we have Spanish channels as well, because we also try to post a lot of content that feels welcoming to people that are new to this, with historical things. We try to dig up all stuff that it might be normal Bitcoiner culture to us, but for someone that's new to this whole thing, and I think we all know how the process goes, it might be entirely new and you don't know a whole lot. So it helps you get into the whole Bitcoin thing. It makes it a little bit more fun. So we try to gear our socials to that effort, so that people are not only getting a wallet, but they get to become familiar with the entire Bitcoin ecosystem.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Before we wrap up, Ed, I just want to say that I look forward to seeing some cryptic posts from you guys, maybe in a couple months from Argentina. But we'll see. We'll see.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So I just want to close out by letting everybody in the audience know, if you haven't checked out Aqua Wallet, download that, give it a try. Noster, I mean, I don't want to start a whole nother conversation on Noster, but there's people that use Lightning on there. It's a great, tool, and Aqua kind of can fit into that too with its Lightning capabilities. Get interested in your local Bitcoin meetups. Use Liquid, where you can pay with Bitcoin, and use that Aqua Wallet features. It's my go-to mobile wallet. So like I said, can't say it enough. Try it out. Download Aqua Wallet. Thanks a lot, Andrew, Raúl, for coming. We really appreciate the time, and you very knowledgeable guys, and you had a lot of really good information to share and insights. I just want to say that the spaces that we do here are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So come back on Monday and we'll have a conversation. And if you want to check out Bitcoin Mentor, you can go to bitcoinmentor.io and you can book a free one-on-one session with us, or send us an email, and we can help you out with self-custody, running a node, or anything that we talked about today. We cover all that stuff. So looking forward to hearing from you guys, and hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care.
Awesome. Cheers, guys.
All right.
Later, team.
Right back at you.
Take care.
Bye.